Hello and welcome to Perspectives, where we take a deep dive into the issues of the day and where we take a look at people's opinion, as usual, on such issues. I am Ruth Osime. Well, instead of celebrating Valentine's Day, a season of hope and reassurance, many Nigerians are focused on something far more urgent: the credibility of their elections. The Independent National Electoral Commission is projecting about 873.78 billion for the 2027 general election. A staggering figure, no doubt, that intensifies scrutiny around transparency and value for money. The Senate also approved electronic transmission to INEC's portal, but stopped short of making real-time uploads mandatory, allowing manual backups. In effect, electronic transmission is permitted, but optional, a position critics say falls below expectations. The Supreme Court has also ruled that without statutory backing, electronic transmission has no legal force. So the question is clear. Does this strengthen confidence or weaken it, especially as 873.78 billion is being set aside for the next elections? Over the next hour, we'll examine the technology, the law, the cost, and the civic responsibility tied to Nigeria's electoral future. Let's get straight to it. We're heading for a short break, but stay with us because in a brief moment, we shall begin to focus on the day's subject matter with my distinguished guests. Olamide Afolabi, Randy Peter Akah, and Senator Nwebonyi, who's going to join us soon. Perspectives will return in just a moment. Now let's quickly get down to business, but not before meeting my guests, starting with Olamide Afolabi, the co-founder and CEO of Touch and Pay Technologies, a company delivering revenue assurance and microtransaction processing solutions to businesses across Africa. He's also a certified EC Council cybersecurity expert. Next up is Randy Peter Akah, a well-known Nigerian political activist, content creator, and social media influencer. Peter is known for his fearless stand on national issues, especially on political accountability, electoral reform, and youth empowerment. And rounding off this exclusive list of guests is, who is soon to arrive, is Senator Nwebonyi, a member of Nigeria's 10th National Assembly, where he currently serves as the Deputy Chief Whip of the Senate. He is also a member of the ruling All Progressive Congress. Good morning, all, and welcome to Perspectives. Well, to a lot of Nigerians, the name Fayose definitely rings a bell. A former governor of Ekiti State, he's the brother of a former governor of Ekiti State in southwest Nigeria. Fayose is known for his directness of opinion when addressing national issues. His brother, he also has a younger sibling who not only shares this trait, but takes it a little bit further by emerging character of speaking truth to power. His name is Isaac Fayose. He has an interesting take on INEC's plans ahead of next year's elections. Let's take a listen.
For many of you that didn't understand why we were out this week to protest at the Senate, that they need to transmit live. See, watch this video. This video will explain to you the meaning of manual collation.
Hey, 1, 2, 3, go!
They see him? That's manual collation. Even though that is manual collation for you. That is what they do. And the former INEC chairman said we don't even need internet to transfer the result from the beavers to the central collation. So who is fooling who? Why are the Senate saying, but where there is no internet, we can do manual collation? You all know the meaning of manual collation after watching that video. Now again, INEC chairman is briefing the press right now, telling us we are going to spend 870-something billion for this election. And apart from that, we are going to spend another 200 billion on technology. My people, the former chairman that left bought all the beavers we need. Is beavers disposable? Why are we spending another 200 billion on technology? We already have beavers. Beavers already. Beavers is a POS machine. Is POS machine now disposable, or POS machine now is like furniture that will be inside our budget every 4 years? Who is fooling who? 200 for technology. What technology? Nigerians, the more you look, the less you see. Shine your eye. Shine now, where? These people, they don't send you.
You just saw that. It says Nigerians, the more you look, the less you see. But let me start with Peter. Is Peter in the house, please? Hello, Peter. How are you?
Yes, I can hear you, ma'am.
Okay. You just saw...
I'm very well. Good to be with you.
You saw the figure that was announced by INEC yesterday, 874 billion naira for the elections. So with such a figure proposed for elections in Nigeria, does spending it at this scale build democratic trust or heighten public concern over resource management? And should citizens demand stricter public audits of election spending? Did you hear me?
It is good to be with you, ma. Nigeria is in trouble. Nigeria is in crisis. It is unfortunate that the National Assembly, that is supposed to be the hallmark of a democracy, that should protect the interest of the citizens and our well-being, today, under the leadership of Mr. Godswill Akpabio, has not only become a rubber-stamped Senate, the current Senate is basically an extension of the presidency, operating under the whims and caprices of the executive arm of government. So if President Tinubu asks Senate and House leadership to jump up, the question will be how high. It has become almost an APC town hall where people are singing and standing upon a mandate which they shall collapse. But that is not even just the problem. The National Assembly today has become a dangerous institution, weaponized against the Nigerian people, and have proven to be only capable of aiding and sustaining corruption and criminality in government. And this INEC budget is just one of so many. So the INEC chairman, Professor Joash Amukpiton, has presented a budget of 873 billion. The question will be, what exactly are we using all this amount of money to do? Is that not what a reasonable legislative arm of government should be overseeing? Because in Nigeria, we spend billions of naira, and the tragedy is that at the end of this process, everybody will then sit down and wait for the tribunal and the courts to pick leaders. That is the judicialization of our democracy. But then again, let us go into the details. The INEC chairman said about 200 billion of this money is set aside for electronic technology. Anti-root electronic technology, when the same National Assembly has passed a clause that says where there is no enough network, we should go back to the same manual method that has been giving us glitches and rigged elections. Nigerians have told the INEC chairman what exactly is the technology to be procured with 200 billion. If we do not have confidence in our own telcos to provide network on election day, INEC should immediately go into a partnership with Starlink so that the 177,000 plus polling units in Nigeria can have Starlink network guaranteed. It will cost less than 100 billion. But somehow nobody is ready to scrutinize because it is all a conduit for criminality. Do you know that in INEC, every election, INEC has been granting contract to certain persons to provide electronic technology? If there is no mischief, and this is not a work between both INEC and the lawmakers, when there was a glitch in 2023, after Mahmoud Yakubu received more than 300 billion and said 150-something billion was for electronic technology, when there was a glitch, Anti-Root and Nigerians, who has called the contractors who handled that project to book? Which of the contractors was charged to court? Which of them has been held accountable? We are still budgeting another 200 billion for the same electronic technology. So as it is today, nobody knows the contractors in INEC, who are the persons printing sensitive materials. And guess what? This is not just the budget for INEC. This is for this year, 2026. INEC will have another budget for 2027. If they need a supplementary budget, it will be given. But we do not not equate the money we spend vis-a-vis the quality of elections we have. Do you know that from the Senate public hearings in the Ministry of Solid Minerals headed by Mr. Dele Alake, Nigeria is still budgeting 6 billion plus to pay salaries of staff in Ajaokuta Steel Company. Have you been to Ajaokuta Steel recently? A place that has been overrun with rats and reptiles. So that is what exactly is going on in the National Assembly. Who is approving the funds for INEC and other parastatals? Who is insisting to know exactly what is being done with this money? So we just continue to have this over-bloated budget. But for now, the Senate says they are having an extraordinary session on the 17th, which is on Tuesday. Nigerians must insist that the mandatory real-time electronic transmission of result is passed, and not only passed, we want to know exactly what INEC is spending taxpayer money to do, not to spend billions of naira and end up with a glitch. It is unacceptable.
Okay, thank you so much for your fiery response. Let's get to you, Olamide. Now, what will a cost-efficient national election tech model realistically look like?
Yeah, for us to have a cost-efficient electoral model, we need to think about 4 things. The first one would be it must be localized. I hear one of the conversation here is concerning the costs. And FX is an issue when you import those kind of technology. So it has to be localized. It has to be built by Nigerians for Nigerians. It has to be adaptable. Adaptability is, for example, if you go to the US, the Uber in the US does not accept cash. It's not possible for you to pay cash. But in Nigeria, they adapted it to our culture. You can opt for cash. You may not use your card. The same way, technology in Nigeria must be adaptable. And the third one is it has to be flexible. There are different regions in the country, the east, the west, the south, and we all use technology, even the north, very differently. So the technology must be adaptable for each region. And the last one, this is a bit controversial. INEC must build trust with the people. Because if you look at America, they have electronic system. They have an hybrid system as well, where they use both manual and electronic. But some people still believe that there is election rigging, and we could see the video that circulated with Trump that was talking about electoral votes. So one of the key problems we have here is also trust. So if the system must also, from inception, from the development of it, get the trust of the masses before it can work. So if we can put those 4 things into consideration, we will build a realistic and cost-effective system.
Okay, we're going on a break for now. See you right back. In Perspectives. Grab a cup of tea, as I always say. See you soon. Welcome back. We're still waiting for Senator Nwebonyi in the House. So let's continue where we left off. Now, Peter, can I have you back, please? Now, many Nigerians believe the way results are transmitted directly affects election credibility. So which reforms matter most to citizens? Speed, transparency, or independent verification? And are Nigerians voting emotionally rather than strategically?
It is a combination of all factors that build trust and accountability in a process. Why is it that in 2026 Nigeria, instead of lawmakers to be having conversations as to how to strengthen a process, we are giving excuses as to why the system cannot be efficient? Because they rely on a rigged system and a process for them to return to office. Do you know that the issue of using electronic technology for transparency in elections is a project of INEC? And this issue has already been foreclosed by the former INEC administration, began by Professor Jega and then taken over by Professor Mahmoud Yakubu. INEC wrote a position 21 paper on why we needed electronic technology, and in the words of the former INEC chairman, he said to reduce human interference. Because guess what? The shrine of INEC election rigging is in collation centers. So it is important that the process between voter registration, voting, and transmission of result becomes proved from desperate politicians or actors who may want to interfere, like what we saw in Obiakpo with the results we saw there. And that is why we got to the point where we said electronic technology would be a possibility to reduce that kind of, fraud in the system and rebuild trust in the citizens. In 2023, according to INEC, more than 93 million Nigerians registered to vote. 87 million collected PVCs, but less than 30 million came out to vote. President Tinubu is seated in the villa with a less than 9 million number mandate. What exam in the world does a person score less than 50% and is promoted to the next class? And we have lawmakers who are not interested in rebuilding that confidence in the people. A lot of Nigerians do not even believe that what they do on elections, they will count, and that is why more than 50 million people decided to sit out an election. In India, the total number of registered voters is more than twice the number of citizens in Nigeria. India does not only do electronic transmission, they do electronic voting. And in today Nigeria, lawmakers are giving excuses as to why network will not work, even when INEC has already concluded that we have the capacity, we only need legislation. So anybody who is in government today who still believes that network will not be sufficient to build a system that is trustworthy is a misfit for governance. They have no business being there. And Nigerians must insist, because it is not about being emotional. Yes, Nigerians should be emotional because we are the collateral for bad government. There is no government or country where votes will count, where more than 100 persons will be killed in Kwara, and the president of the country, the commander-in-chief, will rather attend a wedding ceremony rather than visit Kwara. Till today, President Tinubu has not told Nigerians who ordered the troops out of the government secondary school in Kebbi State before those girls were kidnapped or taken out of that school. That is because the courage and the confidence of every corrupt politician is a fraudulent electoral process. So whether Nigerians are being emotional about our lives, we are insisting on one thing. We want transparency. We want accountability. We want the votes of the people to count. And technology is a proven way to guarantee that. And that is what we must insist on.
Okay. Now, Afolabi, you listen to this. From a tech standpoint, is real-time transmission truly unrealistic for Nigeria today?
Well, I mean, if we look at prior elections, we've seen people use technology to track election by themselves without waiting for the government. They deploy their own resources to polling units, and as the results are being collated, they are able to populate those results and put them online. So I believe that even without waiting for the government, people are able to, look at these things and say that, oh, we can do something by ourselves. And I believe that looking at that, it shows that there's a possibility around that. Also, internet is getting better. We can see the story from...
I mean, if BVAs can work everywhere, transfers can work everywhere, why should electrical transmission be any different?
Yeah, and we see the way Money Point has moved. We engineers always say that nothing is impossible. We can always say that either it has not been done before or I don't know how to do it yet. But I believe that as far as real-time election transmission is concerned, it's not just a technology thing. It's an aggregation of efforts, because like we say, the devil is in the details. Because people have to use the technology, and there's so many things that have to come into place.
What are the things that need to come together, and what are the challenges?
So for example, and sometimes we outside, there are some technicalities that we don't see, but people inside will be able to shed more light. But from my own perspective, one of the things is when you build a technology, you need a lot of time to test. You need to test for failure. You need to see how people will use it, and you need to train people as well to make sure, because if you have the best technology and you put it in the wrong hand, it's not going to be fit for purpose. So there are so many moving parts that need to come to place before a technology can deliver value. And if any of those moving parts are missed, even if you spend millions of dollars to get those technology into place, it still won't be fit for purpose. And those are the nitty-gritty.
So are you saying the Senate is correct in saying that they don't want to just do purely electoral transmission, that they will need manual to support it? So does that justify their comment from the answer you've given?
Well, so if we look at two countries, most of the developed countries today still use both systems. America, Canada, different places. So from that perspective, they may know what they are saying. But we have also seen countries like Brazil and Philippines that are even more like us, that have gone fully electronic in terms of transmitting the election results. So in reality, it depends on what the people want, and of course the system of government is for the people, by the people, and I feel that either way is possible. But just looking at the demographic of Nigeria and our peculiarity, I feel that that's what we need to.
Could you see electronic transition being feasible before 2027?
Yeah, well, I mean,
and for us to solely depend on just that, is it possible?
Anything is possible if we commit to it, and commitment is not just one-sided. It has to be everybody saying that we must do this. And we saw when that happened in the previous election, where BVAS was introduced, and even though it wasn't really perfect because people still complain after it, but because there was a commitment and there was an action towards that commitment, something was done. Perhaps it's the learning from that commitment that the Senate is saying that, oh, we can't just rely on one side, or but the Senate will be able to shed more light on that. But in reality, we can see that if we commit our mind to something, it is possible. Even startups in Nigeria, we see all the great feats that they've done. We've leapfrogged a lot of European countries in building technologies that didn't work there, but they are working for us. So nothing is impossible if we put all our effort, all our minds.
Also, if you had to advise the Senate, what would you ask them to do? How would you ask them to achieve this goal?
So for me,
what are the parameters and the steps that they should take to ensure that this is what we now use for 2027?
Yeah, I mean, it's a very difficult position for me
I need you to narrow it down, right, and just blanket.
To advise the Senate, yeah, because I feel like they see more than I see. They're like the eagle. They see every part of the country. While
well, if you came in there as a technical expert, what would you advise them to do to make them comfortable enough to rely on real-time electronic transmission? So, because of what I've seen the sheer will of the people working together in concerted efforts to make things happen in Nigeria. I feel that if we invite all these tech people into the room, in fact, 3 months is too much for us to build something. People will come up and build. So you know what you're saying? It can be achieved within 3 months. This electoral transmission. Yeah. No, you're talking from a technical expert. Yeah, I mean, because I know that people have, in isolation, built something that they've used to track election in the past, and some of those technologies have worked. Even though it could be just a senatorial district, it could be governorship election, and you could sit down at your home and watch the result as a ruling, and some of them are very close to what INEC eventually declared as the results. So I know that if we put a piece of all that together in a very short time, we can make something happen. Okay, let's get back to Peter in the house, please. Yes. Yes, Peter, voter participation has steadily... Let me just help. Okay, go ahead before I ask a question. Go ahead. Because I just want to help my co-panelists there, for him to just be aware that the only technology and system that doesn't work in Nigeria is what politicians and mischievous persons in public office do not want to work. In Nigeria today, if the government does not know how to leverage on technology, maybe they can take a lead from what kidnappers and how terrorists in the bush are able to communicate, are able to call their victims' families to request for ransom. Let us make it perfectly clear that the issue of electronic technology for elections is already foreclosed by INEC. And it is not about political parties or citizens going to get their own electoral or electronic technology to aid the system. It is ensuring that it is in the Electoral Act so that it is justiciable. Because the mischief of government was this. Electronic technology is reflected on the INEC guidelines, paragraph 38 and 39. But the court said it is unknown to the Electoral Act. So basically what citizens were requesting was to take what is on the INEC own guidelines, reflect it on the Electoral Act, and amend the relevant sections of the Constitution. That is as simple as it is. Because if you you can play videos of Professor Mahmoud Yakubu on his interview with BBC.
INEC has achieved more than 96% transmission of results in real time in off-season elections, even in Ondo, Edo, and other parts of the country. So it is not a conversation as to whether there is technology or there is no technology. The electoral umpire itself has assured and has proven that we have undertaken the feasibility studies. We have carried this out and we only need legislation. I beg you, in the name of whatever you hold sacred, why is the National Assembly the one deliberating as to the capacity of the electoral umpire? It is sheer mischief. So every discussion about electronic technology, we are only having it because the Senate and politicians have decided that it should not happen because they rely on that clause for electoral malpractices.
Okay, let me ask you the next question. Voter participation, as you know, has steadily declined in recent elections. Could clearer, trusted electoral processes, including electronic transmission, help re-engage citizens and restore confidence? Or is distrust not the biggest driver of voter apathy in Nigeria? Is distrust not the biggest driver? Okay.
Because you know...
Go ahead.
Yes. You know what will make the 2027 elections, if they are able to rig it, it is not because anybody was too powerful. It is because Nigerians on their own have given up on that election before it even happens. So what Nigerians must understand is that voter apathy under this leadership we have is deliberate. The more people become disinterested in the process, the more people are disenfranchised and decide to sit out, the easier it is for people to rig, the easier it is for people to buy votes. So when you see this level of disenfranchisement, it is a deliberate attempt, because let us be very clear. If there are free and fair elections in Nigeria today, President Tinubu and his APC gang, their defeat will be announced before 1 p.m. on election day. They know that they have no path to victory in 2027. And that is why they rely on the defected governors who are standing upon a mandate which they shall collapse. You know why? When you do manual coalition, it empowers the gatekeepers in those states, the governors and political office holders, to be able to influence and to pretend over those institutions. So they can rewrite figures. You can see the kind of mutilations that happened in Obiakpo and other parts of the country. So that is why you see politicians continue to push for this manual system. Nigerians must know that the more people come out to vote, the more difficult it is to rig. There is a deliberate attempt. That is why you can see everybody. If not, ask yourself the question. President Tinubu has more than 30 governors standing upon a mandate. They have the entire National Assembly. They have the judiciary. They have the police. Only INEC has not declared officially to stand upon the mandate which it shall collapse. Yet they have inaugurated city boys, township boys, everything boys, renewed hunger, renewed rascality, renewed whatever. So why are you still afraid of free and fair elections? Why are you afraid of one single clause, mandatory real-time transmission of results, which INEC has said we can do? It is mischievous. Nigerians must wake up and know that this is your opportunity to choose your leaders. Our lives will not move forward until our votes begin to count. We must insist on it.
It's so unfortunate that we don't have the senator in the House yet, because I really feel that he would have some strong opposing views to what you have said so far. But we might as well we have to just continue with both of you until he does arrive, because so that the conversation is a bit balanced. So let me ask you, Olamide. Okay, before we get to Olamide, let's go on another break, and I'll see you right back soon on Perspectives. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back to Perspectives. We're still expecting Senator Nwebonyi, but let's get back to you. Now, Olamide, which poses a greater threat to election credibility? Is it technical failure or human interference? And how can these risks be mitigated?
So we always say that the greatest technology still have the biggest risk being the users. So even if you have the best security, the best resources and all of that, users can still be manipulated. And that's why there's a field in hacking that they call social engineering. So it means that I can compromise you to use your what's it called? Your access, to give me your access. Either being coerced or being, whatever way. So in retrospect, for me, I feel that the biggest thing that we need to do is to really build trust around the electoral system, just like Peter have said. And even some places where they don't even use technology as much as we do because we've leapfrogged, because there's a trust there and people can see that, oh, this process has been free and fair. Either the trust is built by the agency, i.e. INEC in this case, or is built by the government as a collective effort. And I think that that's where the missing opportunity is, where beyond the fact that technology is being used, do we even trust the people that are administering the technology? And if we have the best technology, we spend the best resources to do that, and that trust is not there, we are still going to go back to square one. And I dare to say that one of the biggest election where, Peter alluded to it when he was talking about last election, we had technology in place. And at the end of the day, it still didn't give us the satisfaction that, the people wanted. So it's the same that will happen even if, we transmitted everything electronically, we did everything that we're supposed to do. But if, the agency did not do enough to make sure that people trust the process, no matter what they are doing, is still going to be. So I dare to say that human factor is one of the key things in this, not just technology.
Okay, but you're a young man from what I can see, and obviously you must have spoken to some of your peers. What's the general feeling about electoral voting?
Yeah, I mean,
do they have any confidence that it will get better?
Yeah, it's a mix of both, and people feel that some people feel that, oh, it's better, while some people feel that it's far, it's gone really bad.
As in, they just totally lost hope.
Yes, and some people, just like in America, would rather not even vote at all because they feel that, oh, it doesn't matter. Their votes doesn't count and that. But I feel that at the end of the day, it's not just a one-side opportunity here. And like I always refer to my friends when I talk about entrepreneurship, is that it's not just the politician that built America. It's entrepreneurs, it's people coming together to say, we must fix this. And one of the things that I tell my people that care to listen is, don't rely on government alone to solve all the problems. So let us look at what we can also do as people.
Does that mean that you've totally lost hope? When I'm talking to your age bracket, would they put it this way, would they come out to vote in 2027?
If we have lost hope, we'll probably not be in this country. We would have been in the US or UK or Canada.
So do you think that you can gain the trust of the youth?
I believe so.
For 2027? Do you think politicians can gain the trust of the youth to encourage them enough to come out and vote in 2027?
If all the right things are done, like engaging and, really using technology to drive confidence, to build trust deliberately, to get people's inputs, put people in the room, influencers, and, get their inputs. And, there's so little things that can be done to drive trust, engage people. I believe that we can get it back.
Okay, let me get back to Peter. How can young Nigerians actively ensure electoral reforms are implemented properly beyond protest and social media campaigns? And please give us an update on what your protest has been like so far. Did you hear my question?
It is unfortunate the situation we find ourselves as young people. Nigerian youths and Nigerians, my thoughts and prayers are with all of us. Because beyond social media, beyond protest, what other thing do we need to do? We are outside. And we need people who are inside to implement the wishes and the aspirations of the people. But unfortunately, anti-roots, you cannot use corruption to fight corruption. You cannot use people who want to engage in a fraudulent process to change that fraudulent process. So as much as we need to make change, Nigerians need to send people who have the capacity, the integrity and character to build institutions that work for everybody. So we must continue to put pressure on the persons we have there to change and do what the people need, because they are there to represent the people. Whilst Nigerians must use this opportunity to mobilize ahead of 2027. One of the problems with Nigeria is that Nigerians are angry people, but anger is not a plan. Being dissatisfied with government is not a strategy. You can be angry for 65 years as we have been, and you continue to take the wrong decisions. What will be the right decision? We must fix our leadership recruitment process. You cannot have a situation where the worst rule over the rest instead of electing the best to lead the rest. We must insist that a process where a person is called His Excellency must be excellent. How can you be honorable when you came through a rigged system that is is dishonorable. How can you call yourself distinguished? So Nigerians are in a difficult situation where they are demanding for change from a people who are not interested in change. So it will take massive citizens' participation and mobilization, because democracies thrive when citizens participate. On our protest, we did the first day and the second day, and as it is today, we have seen a circular yet to also be confirmed that the National Assembly is calling back an extraordinary session, because INEC has released this timetable and somehow it is clashing with some religious exercise and all of that for 2027. So it is likely that by Tuesday, everything about electoral reform, amendment, repeal and reenactment will be concluded. So every Nigerian should be preparing for Tuesday. Once the National Assembly is resuming, the pressure must begin from today. Everybody, civil society, opposition, political leaders, religious organization, anybody who means well for this country must insist that a bill is passed, and not just passed, it should be passed without mischief. Mandatory real-time electronic transmission of results is possible totally, and we must commit to that.
Okay, you heard Peter's comment. So which models can Nigeria realistically adapt? And what lessons can be learned from sectors like banking in maintaining security and reliability? Because people do make transfers no matter what part of Nigeria they're coming from.
Yeah. So identity is a very key thing, because you need to know who is voting, because lack of identity is where, it becomes questionable. And in banking, what you have is your ATM card. So you can just enter your PIN or make transfers. And so people will argue that it's not using the same byte of data to transmit, to make transaction happen when it comes to Electoral Act. But it's a foundation. We have something that works and we can build from there.
Exactly.
So there are opportunities around using what works. Right now, we are talking about Starlink. Initially, there have to be fiber cable to get to, the most rural area. But now with Starlink technology, which is using satellites, which cover probably the entire atmosphere of Nigeria, we are able to, buy the bandwidth and do some of these things. So I believe that if the will is there, there are systems in place that we can build on. And like I said, it may not be perfect, but if by the time we continue to iterate on it, it will grow. And one other thing is that banking has a very high value stake. The same thing with election, because of course people are vying for power, and because of that, there is an immense opportunity for people to want to hack or tamper with it. The same thing with banking, where we have a lot of people trying to hack an account, trying to do malicious transfers and all of that with people. And there's a fraud unit in the bank because of that. So it's the same way we need to look at election. Election, when it goes electronic, it becomes very interesting to people because the hack value then goes high from a technical perspective. So, and those are the things that people need to look at, consider when it comes to this. We saw the documentary on Cambridge Analytica, how election was influenced and all of that. And this was purely through technology. So those are some of the conversations that we then start to have by the time we move to this other side. That, okay, does the system then change from trying to buy votes to trying to hack the system?
Yes.
If, the intention, is not pure, as Peter have said. So in reality, for me, I don't think that we can isolate it and just look at it from just pure technology perspective. We have to look at it from an overarching perspective to look at, okay, what are we talking about here? The people that are vying for power, how desperate are they to make sure that this thing, because at the end of the day, everything that has everything that you can write, you can erase.
Okay. Thank you very much. I think the senator has arrived, better late than never. So we're going on a break and we'll see you right back soon on Perspectives. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back. We finally have Senator Nwebonyi in the house. Better late than never. I'm going to ask you two questions back to back. so that you have enough time to give your answer. Now, the Senate recently decided not to make real-time electronic transmission mandatory, citing technical limitations. How does the Senate justify this position? Do you understand? And then many Nigerians also view the Senate as rubber stamped or influenced by the executive. How can it demonstrate true independence, strengthen scrutiny of candidates and presidential requests, and build public confidence? So, two questions back to back.
Thank you so very much. I think going by my interview a few days back, I thought that this matter had been laid to rest. But it's not bad. It's an opportunity to clear the coast more for Nigerians to really understand, the rationale behind what we did. And if you are logical, and if you study the bill the way we've done it, which I stated clearly that day, we've done what every reasonable parliament should do to guarantee free and fair and transparent election in Nigeria. Considering, comparing what we have to other countries like US, UK, Germany, Mexico, name them. You can't see such thing in their own law.
You mean they don't have electoral real-time transmission?
I'm coming.
Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
What Nigerians were clamoring for is to insert electronic transmission into our law. The Electoral Act 2022, as it is now, pending the conclusion of this amendment, never made mention of that. I, as a person, were among those agitating for the introduction of electronic transmission of results.
Okay.
And it came to pass. And we inserted it. And that's why I told some of our friends who are arguing against this, go and read that law. Do not stop at the elementary meaning of the words. Look for judicial or legal interpretation of those words. Where a word like shall is applied in law, is mandatory. The clause that people don't understand is this. Whereby in my village, Mbeke Isheke, for example, after voting, the result entered in Form EC8A, which is the primary point of collection, which in US, they also have that, which in Germany, they also have that, before the transmission. Now, when that is done, all the polling unit agents are there, the security agents are there, the result is known that ABC party scored 10, YPP party scored 5. By then, everybody have even seen it with his phone. It's all over the social media. The same result will be transmitted into the INEC portal by virtue of that word, shall. It's not may. If in the course of transmission there is network glitches or any other problems, it will report that yes, I wanted to send this, but it didn't go. But the content have not changed. Probably before you move from my polling unit in Mbeke Isheke to Ugbodo, which is my local government collection center, that message may have dropped in INEC portal.
Okay, let me ask you.
Now, the question is this.
Yes, go ahead.
After this explanation, why the agitation anymore? What are we talking about? We'll finish the matter. We've done what we're supposed to do. You can't have the law better than the way it is. That is the point. So, let me advise more. We shouldn't think that National Assembly is the problem of Nigeria. The problem of Nigeria, like I said before, is you and I. People jump into matters without critical analysis of the subject matter. When the tax reform bill came, Nigeria said, oh no, the president wants to make Lagos State the richest state. He wants to do this, he is biased, without reading the bill. But at the end of the day, my sister, that tax law, which is not an act, is the foundation for the economic prosperity of Nigeria.
Okay, now that you've said this is a very strong answer. Peter, do you have a quick response to what the senator just said?
Yes, I do.
Okay, go ahead. Go ahead.
I mean, I think that the National Assembly should not, insult the intelligence of Nigerians. And when the senator says that the National Assembly is not the problem of Nigeria, I disagree with that. The 10th National Assembly, particularly the Senate, where the senator represents, is the problem of Nigeria. And when we see, because we watched the recent committee hearings where we saw the senator, where they were almost in a near fisticuffs, screaming at themselves with Senator Rufai Hanga and all of that. Are these the persons who are supposed to be making laws to be bettering the life of more than 300 million people? The Senate clause that was passed includes that it will transfer electronically, but where there is no network, we should go back to the Form EC8A form. The House of Reps clause does not carry that. What exactly and whose interest does BOT serve? If the same Senate has approved a sum of 873 billion for INEC, if a reasonable Senate, should we not be talking about how to ensure and guarantee that there must be sufficient network? And the Senate cannot be preempting the electoral umpire. INEC has said we have the capacity. We have tested and trusted the electronic transmission of results as far back as 2019, 2022 in off-season elections. Why are senators arguing about network in 2026? Okay. Any person who in Nigeria today does not believe that we have sufficient network has no business being in parliament, because Nigerians do not want clauses that will give room for electoral malpractices.
Thank you so much. Let me Senator, please, one minute.
Well,
quickly respond to that.
Let me start by
have 1 minute.
Advising my friend, and I'll start by replying with a submission that the 10th Senate is not the problem of Nigeria. The problem of Nigeria is somebody like my friend, Mr. Peter, who dabble into issues in a very unlogical manner. Coming to what you said as to what transpired in the course of our committee hearings, it shows that you are not exposed. It shows that you have not watched parliament of other countries. It shows that you don't watch events to compare what is happening in other countries with your own country. In a parliament, when a senator is talking, he should be allowed to land. But I'm not going to join issues with you. But I want to tell you that in parliament, at times, voices can be raised, all geared towards a parliamentarian pushing home his point.
Okay, thank you so much.
No, but let me come. On the law properly, I still advise him to go and read the clause the way it is. After reading it, probably your opinion will be different, because from all you said, you have not made any logic or valid argument.
Unfortunately,
thank you so much.
Unfortunately, we have to close. That's why I was hoping that you will come. You have made it earlier, but at least thank you for the input that you have put in this conversation so far. Thank you so much, Peter Akah. Thank you so much, Olamide Afolabi, and thank you so much, Senator Nwebonyi.
Thank you.
So one thing is clear: the future of Nigeria's elections depends on technical readiness, political will, and active citizen engagement. The decisions made today by the legislature, INEC, and the people will shape not just 2027, but the credibility of our democracy for years to come. That's all we have time for today. You've been watching Perspectives here on Arise News with me, Bruce Osime. See you next week. Goodbye.